the benefits of having customers share their experience, if you have a good product, is probably one of the most powerful marketing channels there is. If you were building it today, it wouldn't just be a blog. What you would do instead of just having a blog with CTAs on it is you would say, okay, I need a creator strategy. I can't just be the only one creating. It needs to be on social instead of just on search, and it needs to be in formats that people are consuming today. So far, I think the easiest way to think about it, and it's good news for marketers, is like you don't have to do something dramatically different. You just need to do really good SEO, and you're likely to show up pretty well, I think, in the LLMs for now, unless something really breaks off.
People over product. Talk me through the importance of that to you.
It's not necessarily people over product. I think it's people alongside product. And by the way, like the best people tend to flow to the best products. And so those two tend to go hand in hand.
Behind the scenes, it was a small group of people that were doing everything.
Welcome back to the GTM podcast. It's your host, Scott Barker.
I want to know how this insane growth actually happened.
This episode is brought to you by Demandbase. Demandbase helps B2B companies hit their revenue goals using fewer resources by using the power of AI to identify and engage the accounts and buying groups most likely to purchase. Their account-based technology unites sales and marketing teams around insights that you can understand and facilitates quick actions across systems and channels to deliver big wins. It's flexible, scalable ABM built for you. Hello and welcome back to the GTM podcast. Feels like it's been a minute actually since I recorded one of these things. I was on the road for a couple of weeks and been battling a bit of a cold. So I hope I don't sound like Kermit the Frog as we get going.
I kind of like it, Scott. Your voice, it's a little more grainy. How you doing, everybody?
A little like a sultry, sexy vibe with a late night DJ voice.
Go to markets. A little weathered.
I love it, man.
Yeah, sorry.
Weathered, haggard, go to market.
You're weathered because you're weathered because of hard-fought experience as a go-to-market leader, not because of your cold, right?
Exactly. That's Definitely. What I was going to say. This is the voice of what's actually happening out there. You know, it's hard. Everyone's battle scarred.
I'd like everybody to hear Scott and just ask yourself, is this what you want in life? Are you sure this is what you want? Are you sure you want to sound like this? Because there's a toll. There's a toll.
There is. Pick a new career now, unless you want to sound like this. Well, awesome, man. Well, super excited to have you on for the listeners. So I am joined by Jon Dick. Jon, welcome, man.
Hey, thanks, Scott. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm pumped, man. This is going to be a great conversation. And so Jon is the global SVP of customer success at HubSpot, where he's focused on helping literally millions of organizations grow better. And prior to CS, which I thought was interesting, Jon actually led marketing teams for HubSpot, also Trunk Club and Clout. And a fun fact for the listeners, also has a background in improvised comedy. So hopefully we get some of that today.
That's where I got that. That's where I got that weathered Scott voice, everyone. That's from that was 10 years of formal training at the best academies in Chicago for improv. How you doing? I'm Scott, go-to-market leader. Yeah, that's what you get. It's really paying off.
I love it. Which I know there's a bunch in Chicago. Which improv clubs were you a part of?
I was involved in lots of them. I think everybody who. So the deal with improv is lots of people who are typically extroverted and like acting or being in front of people, but really aren't good at remembering lines. Typically, it's like people who aren't good at I'm really bad at song lyrics and lines. Like I sing, Baby Beluga to my daughter every night before bed, and honestly, like 2 out of 5 nights I forget the lyrics halfway through. It's like so bad. I just did the math. I've sung it like 5,400 times, and I somehow forget. But anyway, a lot of people in college find their way to an improv team, and if you really, really like improv, then you make your way to Chicago. And once you're in Chicago, you go through a bunch of training centers there. There's the IO training center. There's the Second City training center, and there's the Annoyance training center. And there's a bunch of others as well, but I kind of did things at all of those and took classes at all of them, and did performances all over the city.
Very cool. Very cool. Fun fact for our listeners who might not know, I acted as a child. I did about like 15 or 16 commercials back in the 90s, like Hot Wheels and Cinnamon Toast Crunch and a bunch of it was fun,
Oh,
man.
okay.
It was
Listen,
fun.
everybody. If you're not, I don't know. Do you post these on YouTube or something? Are these videos?
So people have found them. I don't want a bunch of our listeners going, but they are findable. They are
Because the
findable.
very first thing I said to Scott when I got on this video is I complimented him on his hair, because I think his hair looks fantastic. He's got such good body in his hair. And I was like, my God, man, how'd you get that body and that hair? And now I know. It said you're a natural. You've been an actor, you're a child actor. So you've just got that child actor energy just flowing through those locks.
That was it. That's how I landed. I just had to walk in, flip my hair, and the rest was history. But no, there's
Sadly,
something to it, though.
Sadly, I don't have that benefit, Scott.
Yeah, fair. There's something to it, though. I imagine you pull on those improv, skills and tactics in like a lot of meetings. You can think on your feet. I remember back in the day, like going to auditions at like a super young age, and you're just thrust in this room with like 6 adults, and they're just like, go, like dance like a monkey, or like do whatever. And I do look at that time period as like, I think it gave me a lot of the skills that I still use today, just to like think on my feet and maybe quell some of the fear that comes up in public speaking and big important scenarios that we all face in business.
Yeah, I think, obviously the ability to think on my feet and be confident doing that helps. I think like overall presentation skills obviously helps a lot in a company setting or in a customer setting, by the way. And being able to like kind of communicate a powerful story, like I think really matters. The thing though that I think is most powerful about improv or acting in particular is that you really learn to just recognize that mistakes are part of performing. And one really cool thing about improv is like things go wrong all the time. And that's actually part of what makes improv so fun, because it's made up in real time. The audience knows that mistakes are going to happen, and the audience like thrives on the mistake as much as the actors do. And if you try and, like the oldest rule in marketing is if you can't hide it, feature it. And I think that for actors and improvisers in particular, they get really good at like seeing those mistakes and knowing that the audience knows it's a mistake and leaning into them and like making it a thing and making it a bit. And I've actually found in a work environment, that's actually probably like the most powerful tool that I learned out of improv is the comfort of being like, well, I totally messed that slide up, or, like, wow, I totally misstated that. And just being comfortable, like, messing up. It just humanizes you as a coworker and a leader. And I think it helps everybody feel like it gets people on your side a little bit. And so my biggest piece of advice to everybody is just kind of like I don't know what % of your audience records like Loom videos.
Mm-hmm.
Do you record Loom videos or? Yeah.
I do. Yeah. We do internally quite a bit.
How often do you stop and start re-recording?
Not anymore. I remember when Vidyard first came out back in the day, and we would do like outbound videos. I remember myself and my team just agonizing, trying to make them perfect. And then I think the learning was like, it doesn't have to be perfect. The imperfections, as you stated, is part of the experience and part of that medium too, that people actually want.
Exactly. And it's a universal human experience in today's modern distributed hybrid workforce is that everybody has recorded a Loom video and messed up, and you're so annoyed. You're like, my God, I just wasted like 7 minutes and I got to start again. And I had it right the first time. And more often than not, you go back and you try it again and it's not as good as the first time. You're like, I really messed it up. And so like, just get comfortable in those videos being like, all right, everybody, I am not stopping this video. I'm going to push through that mistake. You are with me, right? And like, gets good reactions on the video. So
no, it's a great call out. And then you also coupled this improv experience with an MBA from a little school called Harvard Business School. What was that experience like? I talked to so many people that are looking at potentially doing an MBA. I think a lot of listeners maybe are in a position where they're thinking about it. Would you recommend it? Do you think an MBA is still relevant in this market with things changing so quick? Would love kind of to hear your experience. And congrats, by the way. That's an incredible accomplishment to get an MBA from.
Thank
Harvard
you.
Business
I think I hit the, I think Harvard Business School has a one improv person quota every year. So I was the improv guy. Um, no, HBS was an incredible experience. It was definitely one of the best experiences of my life. I have a lot of people ask me about whether they should think about an MBA. And what I would say to those people would typically be the following. I think there are many good reasons to get an MBA, but it's not for everybody. The first thing I would say is that you should really only get an MBA if you, number one, are looking to do some sort of major career switch. I think an MBA creates a platform for that because you go back to scratch and you have the opportunity to get hired into companies. And often they will expect that you're coming in from scratch, but with an incredible and relevant education. And so it's a really powerful tool for a career pivot. The second reason to get an MBA today would be if you're part of an industry where that just like really matters to get promoted or whatever. Like if you want to be partner at McKinsey and that's like your ambition in life, it can make a lot of sense to get an MBA or a PhD because it really matters to at McKinsey that when they put senior leaders in front of clients, that those leaders have credentials, like really well-established credentials. The third reason I think that you would think about getting an MBA is if you are really passionate about learning more about business, but you're just not good at self-teaching. You need a structured school environment, and you need that ability to push you through all of that. And so those are because it's a huge opportunity cost, especially if you're going to go full time. And especially if you're going to go to one of those top tier schools, you're going to come out with a huge amount of debt. It's going to force you to take only certain types of jobs because of that debt. And although the experience is incredible and the people you meet is incredible, I think just be sure that you it's for maybe one of those three reasons that you would really, really consider it.
Yeah. That's super helpful. So major career switch or pivots, that makes total sense. Kind of beginning with the end in mind, knowing where you want to end up. There is still, a lot of companies that will actually not promote you past a certain threshold if you don't have that MBA beyond certain sections, and then just really knowing thyself and be like, all right, am I good at self teaching? Am I watching the YouTube videos? Am I buying my own courses? Are you going through that? And if not, then it might be
anybody in the
path.
world, I think, can learn business for free right now through. I mean, HBS is the HBX program, which I think just has like all the free basic courses from HBS on it. It's out there if you want to learn it. Of course, the in-classroom experience is extraordinary. Building a network is extraordinary. Getting to interact and get to know those professors is extraordinary. It's amazing to have that freedom to explore what you're interested in. So there's so many wonderful things about it. I feel so lucky I got to do it, honestly.
Super cool experience. All right, switching gears a little bit. So I want to just dive right into it. I think, from my vantage point and talking with a lot of our portfolio companies and just being very much in the startup and SaaS world, is it feels like customer success is getting a lot of attention right now, both good and bad attention. I think there was a lot of maybe bad behaviors that are getting exposed. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of efficiency gains that are happening right now with folks leveraging, of course, AI, getting closer to marketing and sales. I would love to kind of get your take on the new age of customer success that we might be moving into and what you think that looks like.
I think it's amazing that customer success is getting so much attention right now. And it's one of the reasons I'm so excited to be part of the customer success organization at HubSpot. I can't actually think of a more important job at a company than helping customers be successful. Full stop. You know what I mean? If you just break every function down, it's what I did for 8 years at HubSpot as a marketer was important to the business and was important to our customers. But as compared to literally the job of helping customers get more value out of the product they bought, which means they're going to grow better and actually grow their revenue. It's just an important job. And I think the reasons it's getting so much attention right now are a couple things. Number one is just customer acquisition has become much more difficult. And that is not just because of budgets tightening and increased scrutiny and companies reducing workforce and all that stuff. It's just that like the channels that we relied on as digital marketers for a solid 15 years are being really like disrupted. There was an amazing 10 to 15 year run of using Google and Meta to scale really cheap, high volume customer acquisition engines. And that, of course, is being very disrupted right now, both by the unit economics of those platforms, by Google removing more and more organic clicks from their search engine, to Google actually fundamentally like disrupting their own cash cow product by launching, SGE, search generative experience, to just change, like move from what we call like moving from clicks to conversations. And so like customer acquisition is just like really, 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 really tough. Shout out to all those marketers out there who are chasing down, their revenue contribution each month or each quarter. It is tough. I know it's super tough. And so that then basically like creates an environment where it's like, well, in particular for software as a service or a company that has a customer base that has loyalty or buys frequently, well, if you can't acquire new upfront, like you should try and get more out of what you have, and you should try and improve that. So I think that's one reason. And I think, a second big reason that customer success is getting a lot of attention right now, is just that, every business is trying to be more efficient. And I just think that it used to be, during the ZERP era, it's kind of easy to throw humans at problems. And now businesses are saying, I need more. I need more out of the software I've purchased. I need my team to be more effective, more efficient, et cetera. And so customer success just plays a huge role in that. And lastly, I think the reason customer success is getting a lot of attention right now is that, like, I mean, this is like the most overused but most true phrase ever, which is like customer expectations are just increasing. Like, I think the days of, shelfware are just like full on gone. Like, no one has the money to buy software anymore and just not use it. It's like, if I'm gonna buy the software, like I got to get a return on it. Like, as a marketer or a sales leader, my CFO is all over me and they demand more, and my number's going up and I got no way to get there. Like, I need more. And so to me, those things together have really like shined a spotlight back onto customer success. And to me, like customer success, like, businesses have always wanted better retention and more loyal customers, and have always thought that customer success could play a role in it. But I think that there has been some pessimism for some period of time about the ability of customer success to kind of drive that. And I think that is just because, it has been really hard for human beings alone to be able to help customers use complex software. I'm talking about SaaS specifically here, but to use complex software and to be as engaged with a customer as they would need to be at the unit economics that would be required to support having humans in that process. And that is what like Gen AI has really changed. And Gen AI has now said like it's given me like new optimism about old problems, and I think there used to be, there's these old problems of just like, how do you get your customers to get more value? And the only option before was, to throw more reps at them, and CS teams were built on ratios. And now I think there's a real shift to say, well, I've got some new optimism about this, and instead of funding for ratios, I'm really just funding for results now. And it's kind of a cool shift.
Roughly how many customers does HubSpot have today?
Over 200,000.
200,000. Wow.
Yeah.
How are you balancing, and maybe this is where your new optimism with AI comes into play. I think, HubSpot has done such a fantastic job. I think the whole market knows like this is a easy, simple to use tool. You can likely sign up, and if you've been in SaaS for, more than a year, you're probably going to be able to figure this thing out. But
fast, easy, unified. That's HubSpot.
Fast, easy, unified. Yeah, exactly. But of course, as you bolt on, new parts of the platform, maybe you're not as familiar with, you're trying to get it, ingrained in the whole organization. You're going to have a bunch of questions. How have you always like balanced these smaller accounts, that might be growing, and they might be growing quickly. They could be your future, tier one accounts, but they're tough to know. that like level of support, like what are the different levels of support at HubSpot, and how do you think about that from a CS perspective? And have you been able to automate more of that? Are you leveraging AI for some smaller customers? Would love to hear kind of how you've set that up.
Yeah, as you said, with 200,000 plus customers, many of them being, really small businesses. HubSpot is a customer platform for scaling companies, we like to say, which means that includes very small companies, but also like 2,000 person companies that are in their scaling journey. HubSpot still runs almost entirely on HubSpot as our CRM and our marketing, sales, and service software. And so we're 7,500 employees or whatever, and we're still on HubSpot, scaling just fine for us. So yeah, but with 200,000 customers, like we just literally can't use humans to engage with people, and nor would we like necessarily want to, because I don't think everybody wants a human being to constantly be reaching out to them. And so like the way that we really think about it is a pretty simple 2x2 of basically proactive to reactive, and what we would say kind of self-serve to human driven or rep driven. And we just have gotten fairly principled around how to think about the experiences in each of those quadrants that we want to be able to offer. And I think the natural thing to think is that I should put all my small companies down in self-serve, and I should put all my big companies up in rep driven. And I challenge that a little bit. I think people should think about that a little bit more like cautiously. I think to assume that like big companies only want a rep driven experience is wrong. I think lots of large companies, like they have hundreds of users that are going to use your software. They need self-serve resources, like, just like, any user. And there are a lot of small companies that sometimes like do just need to talk to a human to like figure out this one thing. And like, sure, Gen AI is like getting closer at being able to do that. But to just blindly say, well, you're small, so you get no ability to ever interact with a human especially when you're really stuck on like the reactive side where I've got a problem and this is not working for me. And so, yeah, we just kind of go through each of those quadrants and just think about like, okay, for, the self-serve proactive segment or, quadrant of our strategy, that uses a lot of like, it's just digital marketing, and there are reps in the mix there. But, we've gotten really good at figuring out, or we're starting to get really good at figuring out, like, how do you basically combine really good digital experiences with really like relevant human expertise? And that's kind of like finding the mix on those things is kind of the key. So yeah, we're using lots of technology to do it. Obviously our self-serve offerings are like pretty robust. We have an academy program that, we certify 500, 600, 700,000 people a year on our software, like really big scale, amazing, high quality content. That team also puts out tons of bite-sized content now, as you'd expect, for what people want to consume. We have a really vibrant community. We've got a great knowledge base. Our support team's awesome. We, as expected, are doing things with support to leverage Gen AI to help those support reps move up the value chain and handle the more complex stuff and get out of some of the simple stuff. But that's really how we think about it.
Makes sense. It's a big task looking after 200,000 and growing customers. I wanted to go back to something you said, more on the marketing side of the house. And you said that there's this shift happening from clicks to conversations. And I would love to hear kind of your thoughts on that, and then maybe get into HubSpot again, almost like notoriously grew through incredible content, and then that incredible content driving inbound. And I guess actually my first question is, if HubSpot was built today, do you think that playbook would still work? If I'm a startup founder listening to that, can I still use that playback that worked with HubSpot?
Yes. It just looks different.
Yeah.
I still fundamentally believe like HubSpot was founded based on an insight. And that insight was that Google was going to democratize the ability for small companies to gain access to customers at scale. And Brian Halligan, the chairperson of HubSpot, former CEO, used to say, the amazing thing about inbound marketing is that size of mind beats size of wallet. And so you can't just spend your way anymore to winning customers. If you're smart and thoughtful about how you use content to go to market, you can win customers. And I think that's still true today. But the nature of it looks very different. Content marketing and inbound in particular really started out just as a way to attract new prospects to your website and to get them to fill out a form so a sales rep could follow up with them and close them. So it was a very one part of the, funnel is what inbound marketing was for. One channel, which was kind of Google, click through to Google to the website. And that's why I say kind of clicks. Now it's really, 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 really changed. I think content marketing is no longer powerful just for attracting businesses to you or prospects to you. I think it's like a full life cycle marketing strategy now. So you need to use it to attract, engage, and delight your customers. I think a second thing is, there's been this shift from, companies creating to creators creating. And so that's a huge shift. I think formats have changed a lot. I think channels have changed a lot. I think we've gone from long form to short form. I think we've gone from text to video. And I think we've gone from, people searching, clicking, and browsing to people, opening Chat GPT and conversing and getting information there. And so if the implications for marketers are okay, you still need an amazing content strategy, but if you were building it today, it wouldn't just be a blog, right? You would go from, what you would do instead of just having a blog with CTAs on it, is you would say, okay, I need a creator strategy. I can't just be the only one creating. It needs to be on social instead of just on search. And it needs to be in formats that people are consuming today. So it'd be short form video instead of long form text. And I think you would scale it that way. And I mean, I think you see that, right? Many of the most successful startups that are breaking through because of their content strategy. But instead of it being the company breaking through with blog posts found on search, instead it's the founder as a spokesperson for the company, and being a creator online, creating lots of content and becoming more of a personality and distributing that on social through short form video. So the strategy still works. It's just changed a lot. And it's going to keep changing. It should keep changing because content consumption habits change.
Speaking of content consumption habits changing, you mentioned, a lot of people going to ChatGPT or insert whatever LLM they're using to get a lot of answers. Do you think we're going to see the rise of something like SEO for LLMs? Is that already happening? Is HubSpot thinking about that?
Yeah, we're thinking about it. We have internally, we obviously have goals to show up exactly like we want in LLMs. So far, the best way to, do AIEO, EIEIO,
trademark,
the joke. I know.
Yeah.
It's a hat tip to, I think Dharmesh, one of our co-founders, actually tweeted that joke a year ago. But instead of AIEO, I think actually just doing good SEO is still the best way. It's LLMs are, it's particular Google's LLMs are still relying on they're relying on the same signals for significance. They're looking for accurate information, but I do think it requires you to ensure that the information is as accurate as possible. And I think LLMs gather information from a wide range of sources, not just from the company's website. So it's actually, you do need to have a good creator strategy because you need lots of people talking about your brand and saying the same things. Otherwise, you probably won't, you'll be more noise than signal maybe. So definitely thinking about it. So far, I think the easiest way to think about it, and it's good news for marketers, is you don't have to do something dramatically different. You just need to do really good SEO, and you're likely to show up pretty well, I think, in the LLMs for now, unless something really breaks off.
AI is creating endless opportunities for sellers and the SaaS industry, as 77% of companies are either using or currently exploring AI. Still, it can be overwhelming to understand where and how to implement it properly into your tech stack. That's why our friends at Orem launched Bold Calling, their new podcast. Every episode features a prominent tech founder or sales leader, their daily challenges, and how they're using the latest technologies to solve them. Orem's AI dialing solution maximizes the amount of conversation your sellers can have while cold calling. Sellers still devote up to 30 hours per week to admin tasks, and 78% of sales professionals agree that AI can help them spend more time on the most critical tasks. Anshul Gupta, co-founder of Actively.ai, shares a game-changing solution for reclaiming that time using AI on the very first episode of Bold Calling. And if you're curious how sales and marketing leaders are actually implementing AI tools, I would highly suggest checking out episode 2. They dive deep into it, and it's well worth the listen. Bold Calling from Orem is available wherever you subscribe to your podcasts, and be sure to check out the episode show notes to download Orem's State of AI in Sales Development report. Now on to the episode.
So you mentioned kind of these creators a lot, and we're seeing, for sure the rise of kind of the B2B influencer. I think we have for a while. How is HubSpot thinking about that? You guys have been on this for a while. Like I remember even like back in 2015, 2016, you'd highlight other blogs, like back in the Sales Hacker days, you'd highlight things we would do. And I think I've done a really good job at kind of highlighting other voices other than just HubSpot. How do you think of it as a CS leader? Is that, highlighting more customers, getting them to speak honestly and openly? How are you embracing sort of the creator economy?
Well, I mean, I think as a CS leader, it is first of all important that I am creating and engaging as a CS leader, because if I'm supposed to be the, head customer person at HubSpot, I need to be engaging with lots and lots of customers, and I need to be sharing things that they find valuable. And so I think that's just like step one. Is I think your head of customer success should be talking a lot about what makes customers successful, because I think customers are desperate to learn that. So that would kind of be the starting point. Obviously, I think the benefits of having customers share their experience, if you have a good product, is probably one of the most powerful marketing channels there is. And so, typically CS teams don't like run this function, but I think having a really strong customer advocacy program, creating programs that encourage sharing of key information or experiences, reviews on sites like G2 and Capterra. If I was a customer success leader, one of the things I would be working with my marketing leader on would be, how am I building an amazing customer advocacy program? By the way, this has been true for all of time. Like, customers actually, like, when they love a product, they love to share their experience. Like, I think sometimes you're afraid to ask, and especially if you have reach as a brand and they're somebody who works in some industry, like they want reach too. Like they want to, they kind of want to be famous, and they want to be HubSpot famous, or, whatever your company is famous. And so just realize the key to inbound marketing was always this idea of adding value before you extract value. And I think it's kind of the same for any sort of creator program. And we definitely, going back to the, blog link trading days, we were one of the things we can give you is we can give you reach. Awesome. We want links from you. We can give you reach, and together, we both get value. And we continue to flow that through. HubSpot has a podcast network now, and as a lot of YouTube creators, and we've taken that idea and really scaled it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of companies follow your lead on that, and we're seeing it for sure. All right, switching gears a little bit to kind of the story part of the section. And, we were talking before this, and one of the things that is most important in your career is working with people you like. And you have this idea that is actually more important than anything else, is this idea of people over product. Was that always true for you? Was there a specific time period or moment where that really came to light? Talk me through the importance of that to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not necessarily people over product. I think it's people alongside product. And by the way, the best people tend to flow to the best products, and so those two tend to go hand in hand. But to your point, I think that this kind of goes back to HBS and business school. And this really vivid memory. HBS has a 1-year reunion. They bring everybody back to campus for a 1-year reunion, which is actually pretty cool because you spend 2 years with these people. And in particular, the way that the HBS experience works is that they put you into a section and it's 90 people. You take all your first year classes together in the same exact room, the same exact seat, and the professors rotate through the classrooms. It's like your classroom and your community. And so like you get like really deep with these people, right? Like, you hang out together, you work together, you're learning together, you get like really deep with these people. And so, at the 1-year reunion, it's cool because you get to see all these people, many of whom like are like not your like regular friends, but that you feel so deeply connected to and whatnot. And so at the 1-year reunion, my whole section got back together. I got in a room and a professor comes to like, host a discussion. And the professor was like, well, we've got 90 minutes. What do you all want to talk about? And it was like crickets. It's like no one said anything. Everyone kind of like looked around. And finally, Lisa Cousins, kudos to you, Lisa Cousins, said, I really hate my job. Can we talk about that? This is 1 year after graduating from arguably like the school that could get you any job in business you want if you work hard enough to get that job. And the professor was like, I'm so sorry to hear that. Does anybody else hate their job? I'm not kidding. 90% of hands in the room went up. And the professor was like, oh no, like what happened? And, so we spent the whole time like unpacking like what, and I felt so lucky because my hand didn't go up. I loved my job. I was working at a Series C startup in San Francisco called Clout with a K. For everybody who's an old schooler, you probably remember your Clout score, your social media score. That was us. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved working there. And we spent the whole 90 minutes unpacking it, Scott. Like why did some of us like our jobs and why did some not? And more often than not, like the things that came up as reasons people really like their job were, number one, they just really liked who they worked with. I like my coworkers. Like I like hanging out with them. Like they're good people. Like they care about me. And number two was like, it's just a space like I'm just personally really interested in. And I think what people often think when they go out looking for a job or trying to, make their career is they feel like they have to work at like checkbox companies and get checkbox roles. And it's like, I just got to keep checking the box, right? And if I keep checking the box, then maybe someday I'll like get some role that I've never figured out what it even is because I don't even know what I really want because all I'm doing is focusing on checkboxing. And so, my takeaway on that was just like, I think it turns out if you're working with people that you really like, you should stop stressing about like what's next, or stop stressing about the promotion, or stop stressing about like whether you need to go check another box, and instead just focus on doing like the best work you can with people that you really like. It turns out when you're working with people you really like, you do your best work because you work really well together and you feed off each other and you feel psych safety with those people and all these things. And so, I think that's kind of my takeaway. And, I look at HubSpot. I've been in HubSpot for 8 years now. Can't say like deep in my soul when I was a kid that I like told my mom I wanted to like work in CRM when I grew up, like not really, like it wasn't like the thing. And 8 years later, like my whole career is defined around like I work for a customer platform company and like help people adopt B2B software. And it turns out like I gain passion on that because I love the people at HubSpot and I love the people I work with. And it turns out like our customers are very much like the people who work at HubSpot, and I love our customers too. And so, I just think that like fast forward 8 years, I kind of thought I'd do a quick stint. Marketers don't have very long lifespans at companies often, in particular marketing leaders. And I kind of thought it'd be a quick stint through HubSpot, 2 or 3 years. And, 8 years later, I just, really signed up for like my fourth 3-year stint or whatever. And it's because I just like the people I work with. And so I just would encourage everybody to make that something that matters to you. I think you're going to be so much happier in your life if you do that. And I think like happiness and quality of people that you surround yourself with ends up like resulting in much better outcomes than being like, well, I got to go to this company I hate that, and grind it out for like 3 years and be miserable because I got to check a box.
It's simple advice, but incredibly true advice, and something I've been, lucky to learn firsthand as well. And like, if you're lucky enough to be in that position, like you are, like, don't throw that out. Sometimes it
Don't throw
happens
it away.
once or twice in your career.
Yeah.
Like, if you
Yeah.
are part of a winning, like, and what usually goes hand to hand is like when the team gels and people like each other and they have each other's backs and people are like have this give first mentality. That's usually a winning team too. So like winning with the people you like is arguably the best feeling out there. And you might get tantalized by a short term promotion at a sexy logo, and very quickly you'll look back and want to be back in the good old days. So I think it's great, 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 great advice. And I think you're also describing to me what has been sort of like the antidote for burnout. I think we have a lot of people that are experiencing, burnout for various reasons. There's a lot going on in the world. Um, but if for me, there's days sometimes I'll be in our office and it'll be one of those like late working nights. It'll be like 8 p.m. and I'm just like kind of going through it. And then I'll look over, see like Paul or Sophie on our team, and they're like in it too, listening to music and like, and that's just, then you kind of remember why you're doing it all. And it's,
makes it a lot
it's
more
pretty
fun.
special. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
100%.
I love it. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. I want to quickly go to a listener question. So thank you all for always giving us such great questions. And this one's going to, I think, be perfect, right in your wheelhouse. The question is, we're a Series B company. Should we separate our CS team into success, and then they put brackets, usage, drive value, versus account management, which cross-sell, upsell? So, reading between the lines, it's like, should I have someone focused that's on like onboarding, enablement, implementation, driving value, and then separate that function to someone who like now their job is really to like cross sell, upsell, and look for other revenue generating activities. What's your thoughts on that, and how do you do it at HubSpot?
I would just say, like, I don't ever weigh in on any sort of team structure decisions unless I'm super clear on the first principles involved in it. And so like the very first thing, I'm just like, let's just like try and think it through. Like, what are the first principles here? Like, I think the very first principle should be something related to the customer, which is like, is the customer going to be better served by having more handoffs? Like, yes or no? Well, I think it depends, right? If your product is really complex and wide, and the what you would need to talk about in order to sell a product is very different from what you would need to talk about in order to use a product. Well, then maybe the customer is actually better served by having two different people there. But I'd probably start there and like align on that as a first principle for your company. The second thing is just like, again, like, what, like maybe the second first principle would be something around like, well, it would probably be driven actually just off of your overall account. Like, are you an enterprise company or an SMB company? Are you, if you're a Series B, I'm assuming that you probably have a pretty small customer base, and like relative to like 200,000. And I would assume that your team is not that big. In which case I would say like, does maybe the second principle would be something around the idea of like, does the upside outweigh the complexity? Every time you specialize things, you add more complexity. You have to have more routing rules. You muck up the customer experience. You it's harder to automate because you have multiple different you have CTA conflict, all these things. So I don't know. I just start just like talking about maybe what you believe in the world, and I would get really clear on like what's best for the customer, and based on your business and your segment, what makes the most sense for your business. Now, my general take would be that and this is one of my hot takes about go to market, is I actually like I really hate specialization. I hate it. I think specialization tends to add more complexity than upside. And many, many, many cases, unless you are like a very industry focused niche product, I think that doing a lot of specialization tends to make things actually worse for the customer and worse for the business. Instead of putting your resources into like growing more, you put your resources into like ops. And like if I was Series B, I wouldn't put like almost anything into ops yet, like because I just like put all my money into growing. So through that lens, like my gut reaction is like, no, like I probably wouldn't specialize at this point. And I would challenge myself to say, like, what is so different about the conversation about expansion than usage? And aren't the two intrinsically linked? Maybe it's just such a complex product that it's impossible for one human to have all that in their head. Could be possible, probably not.
Yeah, and if that's the case, can you work on maybe the story of like how do we tell this full platform story if you're trying to get them on other features and other functionality? Like, can we go revisit that story and make it less complex? Maybe some product changes need to happen. Maybe some messaging, positioning needs to change. And I hear you on the specialization. I think there's a Naval quote: "Specialization is for insects." I like that one. And
I never heard that.
That's
funny.
It's a good one. Particularly, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think we're actually going to see the rise of the generalists more and more because we're going to get augmented with AI.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's like, okay, you could build a specialized AM team that is separate from your CSM team driving usage. Or maybe you could build a bot for your CSM that gives them all the information they need to know what conversation to have with a customer about expansion. Or maybe you could use like a company like HeyGen and actually like have a human AI avatar that could have that conversation about expansion. Like it's just a lot of ways to solve that problem. And I think the notion of just like relying on humans to humans as your lever is probably like a slightly outdated notion, although it seems easy.
I agree with all your thoughts there. I will call out a few years back at Outreach, we did do this. I believe it was Series C. We did see good results, but I don't think it was the only way to solve the problem. So we did build an account management team and we immediately saw value go up, but the enterprise and strategic level pretty dramatically. But I think that was just due to focus. Like I think you could also solve
just focus,
this problem. It's just focus. Yeah. I think you could solve this with new KPIs, make this a very high priority if it is a high priority for you and your customers, and just drive that home within the CS team. Sweet, man. So as we wrap this up, this has been awesome, man. So thank you for this conversation. I have two final questions for you, and I keep them the same. They are intentionally vague, so take it where you will. I think we kind of maybe touched on one already, but what is one widely held belief that revenue leaders believe to be true that you think is bullshit or no longer serving us?
Okay, this is peak marketer right here.
I love it.
I hate when sales leaders like obsess about QL volume or lead volume instead of lead value. And I think that it is so it just creates these negative destructive spirals to obsess about volume, because here's the truth. Like as a marketer, like I can get you lots of volume. Actually, you're just going to hate it. It's just not going to be good volume. And we're just going to like, shoot ourselves in the foot. And it's like, give me a number, give me a revenue number that I have to hit each month. And I can decide how to get there between volume and value in order to pull that off. And like, so I think that's kind of like it's kind of an outdated notion, is just kind of like obsessing, like how many leads did marketing pass, and instead like obsess about like what is the value of the lead cohort that marketing passed.
Yeah, I like it. I think we are seeing that shift.
I will say when the going gets tough, all like, altruistic notions of lead value tend to get thrown out the window, and it's like back to volume.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such bad behavior because you're just, if it's not translating to revenue, what's interesting I find is like a lot of people won't focus on value. They go back to volume because they're like, I need to show that I'm like doing stuff and it's not converting for whatever reason, but I'll show that I had 10,000 leads. So I'm doing my job, instead of doubling down on value. It's interesting.
But
So
that's like totally, that's like peak marketer. That's about as marketer as it gets,
yeah, it's interesting. We get some insight into this from, we have this media company that sits on top of the fund, and we work with portfolio companies and partners, and we'll ask them like, what is success if we do like a podcast advertisement, or you come on the newsletter, we create organic content, or we shout you out. And it is interesting that back in the day when we were running Sales Hacker, it was always volume, and this was 2016 was volume. I don't care, give me 1,000, 1,500 webinar leads, and that'll tick my box, and I'll be happy. And now it's much more, let's like dive into who's in this community, who's reading this, which is a great trend. All right, final question for you, my friend, is it's tough times out there. People are looking for silver bullets. I think we all know there is no silver bullets, unfortunately. But what's just one go-to-market tactic or strategy that's working for HubSpot right now?
There are no silver bullets right now. I will say, though, silver bullets do come around now and then. Like inbound marketing actually was a silver bullet. Freemium software was a silver bullet for a really long time. And so I do think it is like critical to all you go-to-market leaders, always be on the lookout for arbitrage opportunities. Early days of Google were arbitrage. Early days of free software were arbitrage. Early days of like hyper targeting on Meta and and Google were arbitrage. So do you always like when they come, go hard and fast and with focus on them, and you will be so happy with that. So, but there are none right now. That is for sure. So I think a couple things that are working really well in the HubSpot go-to-market right now. I mean, I think the first, and this seems like a bit of like, this is still from a few years ago, but still is working so well, is just like the chat experience on the website. Like I cannot believe how much pipeline, I'm always like stunned at how much pipeline we drive off of people just like hopping into live chat. And of course now, that's all supported and augmented by Gen AI. And, so like just amazing. There's just like, if you don't have chatbot on your website, like definitely get one going. And you think you'll be surprised at how often like, that kind of works. I think a second thing that we have, going pretty well at HubSpot is starting, to leverage much more like intent data to actually like expand the notion of what inbound is. Inbound used to just be like inbound to your company, but I think intent data gives you a path to actually do inbound for people just in the market, which is really great. I think everybody like still wants to avoid a world where you're like, my whole goal is like I don't want to go out and spam. Like it's like doesn't feel good for anybody. And so like, obviously that's something, and, with HubSpot's acquisition of Clearbit, I think that's something we're trying to help our customers with also. So that's something that also kind of stands out to me.
Yeah, those are great. I mean, we talk about it quite a bit. We have on this pod of this idea of like signal-based sales. So yeah,
Signal-based sales.
Yeah, like expanding what inbound means. It could look more like kind of a warm outbound based on intent, which is a really cool trend. And chatbot, I like that. I haven't heard that. I feel like chatbots kind of went out of vogue a little bit, but it makes total sense that you'd be seeing, increased usage and efficiency with Gen AI.
What I would actually say right now, Scott, is like, I think the thing to keep in mind if you're a go-to-market leader is that all the arbitrage right now within your go-to-market is all in conversion rate. There's no arbitrage on volume right now. And so obsess about conversion rate plays. Like chatbots are a great conversion rate play. Even like form shortening is a great conversion rate play. Doing more to give customers real-time connection to reps is an arbitrage play. Taking steps out there. Your pricing and packaging can be an arbitrage play for conversion. So I would just say like overall, all the stuff that's working the best is all conversion rate oriented right now.
I love that. No arbitrage in volume, only arbitrages in conversion rates. I think that's a great way to end it up. Well, Jon, thank you so much, man. Anything you want to highlight before I let you go? Any key roles you're hiring for? I'm sure folks will listen to this and be like, I want to go work for Jon, or any events coming up?
I'll just say connect with me on LinkedIn. Always love to. Any HubSpot customers out there, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn and say hello. And anybody that wants to work at HubSpot, connect with me and keep an eye out. So, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, this was awesome, man. Thanks, Jon. And to all our listeners, thanks for hanging out with us, lending us your eardrums. And I always say it, listening's one thing, executing's totally different. So hopefully you can take some of these tips, tactics, and stories, apply them to your own business and help you scale. We'll see you next week.